Hey, sports fans! Coach Nick here, and welcome to the B-Ball Breakdown live show slash podcast slash hanging out with Jared Weiss of The Athletic. Jared, how are you tonight?
I'm hanging.
Yeah, it was an exciting game. It was early, so it's nice that we're kind of chipper and everyone on the East Coast is still up to watch and be part of this. So awesome stuff. Instant reactions to the Denver Nuggets losing at home in Game 2 to the Portland Trail Blazers. How about your instant reaction to start off?
Well, I'm glad it's over because it was really hard to watch.
Okay.
And I mean, we were talking about it before we went on the air. This was one of those weird games where it's both like physical, but also like the teams seemed like they didn't know what they were doing on offense, at least. I genuinely am not sure if either team really knew what their offensive plan was supposed to be up until like the last 5 minutes or so.
Fair enough.
That was a weird part for me.
Okay, I hear you. Yeah, it was interesting because what I noticed in the first half was these teams are pretty similar with what they like to run. A lot of pistol action, so you'll see a lot of dribble handoffs to the wing and then sort of ball screens out top, spread the floor wide. The only difference, I think, is that they'd go down to Enes Kanter down low to score, and he did very nicely there. And the Nuggets go to Jokic at the elbow and the high post and above the three-point line to space even more. So it's kind of an interesting, basically the same version of the offense, but tweaked a little bit for personnel. And I think it was pretty uneven. It was interesting for me was that Portland was able to take a 15-point lead in that first half, and they weren't even shooting that well. So what do you think it was that kind of was able to give them separation early?
I mean, CJ McCollum made some really nice plays throughout the night. This was, would you call this a Rodney Hood game? Maybe it's a Zach Collins game more than a Rodney Hood game. But,
I got two Rodney Hood mama tweets, and I haven't done a Rodney Hood mama tweet for probably 2 years since he was in Utah. So, yeah, let's give it to him. Although Zach Collins for sure was, under the circumstances because Harkless goes down, and that was a brutal, he really rolled his ankle on top of someone's foot coming down, all the weight on it. Like, I don't think he's coming back for the series. I would be surprised if he's back inside of a week, and that might be it. And that killed them because I was never a very big Harkless fan. But he's really convinced me that he is, he could be like Portland could win the series, right? He could be a viable starter on a Western Conference final team. That I would have never thought possible before this year.
I mean, I had to genuinely ask who's better, Paul Millsap or Mo Harkless, because
wow.
I love the value that Harkless brings to the team. Paul Millsap is still definitely a better player. But as far as who is vital in their role, I don't think the difference is that dramatic, honestly. But we did see Millsap was really important with the offensive rebounding that he had. His ability to finish. I mean, they struggled really a lot to finish tonight. And at least in Millsap, you have a guy that really is, over the last decade of his career, been a really good finisher. And he just showed that he's really able to kind of use power and athleticism to throw himself into bodies and create separation at the rim and actually convert. And that was really vital to them actually making, or I guess attempting to make that comeback.
Absolutely. And when he plays well, when Millsap does play well, then the Nuggets are really hard to beat. I'm going to call up the oh boy, I lost my tabs here. Where is the here's the box score. Is it the final? Okay. Let's just go through the box score really quickly right now because Millsap ended up having 14 points, 6 for 14 from the field, 1 for 3 from 3, 11 rebounds. So he did contribute, and everyone was sort of really balanced across the board in the starters, and then Malik Beasley off the bench with 13. So, but the Nuggets did not shoot well from the field at all. They were under 35%. And the Blazers were at 42, and that sort of becomes the difference there. And let's just compare. Blazers had 9 threes, 9 for 29, 31%, versus 6 for 29, 20.7%. So, in a close game like this, when you outscore the other team by 3 threes, that's 9 points. That's kind of like the separation you need. It also certainly helps overcome the 23 offensive rebounds that the Nuggets had. I mean, that was kind of crazy. Even with Kanter in there, I'm not even sure I can explain how they got so many. I think, here's the thing, and correct me if I'm wrong, I would imagine there was like 4 possessions where they got at least 2 on each possession. Does that sound right?
Yeah, and don't forget, they're including all the Jokic chip-ups and all that kind of stuff, and Millsap had a couple as well, so it's not like they're creating a second possession on all those offensive rebounds. Right. In fact, I kind of wish we could differentiate between tip versus offensive rebound. Because like I remember I covered Tristan Thompson a lot over the past couple years in the playoffs, and he's the kind of guy that he'll get like 3 tips up on a play, and they count it every single time as an offensive rebound. So when you look at the box score, it looks like he's destroying the other team, but in reality, it's just a couple plays where he just keeps smacking the ball up there, which is still it's still a valuable play. It isn't as valuable as what an offensive rebound is supposed to be. But at the same time, well, actually, I was about to kind of undercut my point by saying they had 98 shots compared to 85 for Portland, but I guess all those tips count as a shot. So in reality, it's probably more like I would guess probably 6 to 8 of those are probably just redundant tips rather than actual putback shots.
For sure. And the other problem we have now is if we want to talk a little bit about injuries. So the Harkless thing is going to loom large. Although, again, if they have Zach Collins who can come in there and give them good minutes, that helps them. They are deep. Even a guy like Jake Layman, can give them some minutes. He's got no run in the playoffs, even though we've seen him be pretty good in stretches during the regular season. So I'm not sure why, but he might get. I will make a prediction that Jake Layman could actually will make a big play for them at some point in this series. I feel like he can get in there and do that. Now on the flip side, we have Torrey. I always want to call him Torrey Pines, which is the high school in San Diego. Torrey.
High school. That's the golf course in San Diego.
That too, both. Anyway, he goes down with a severe broken nose, comes back though. So that's good news for the Denver Nuggets because he was playing Dame very well. And he's just another guy that he can hit a 3 on occasion. He's very physical and he can really play defense as the Australian Defensive Player of the Year, Australian League Defensive Player of the Year, as they like to reference on the TV broadcast so often tonight. So that's going to loom interestingly enough for them. Anybody else injured? Did anybody else on Nuggets go down? No, just him, right?
Well, Jamal Murray was playing with a flat tire most of that game, it seemed.
Yeah. Now, luckily, we have the kind of treatments we have now. Modern, treatments are really important with like ankles or quads. So I suspect that they can get him back in shape at the next game. Now, they don't play Friday? Do they play Saturday?
I believe that's right. Okay,
so they have an extra day off too. I mean, listen, if you're the Rockets or the Warriors, they must be going to Vegas tonight just to hang out because they have so much time off. So that will loom somewhat large, but I would anticipate that Jamal Murray would be back. And we never know, even independent of his knee or his leg thing, whether we're going to get good Jamal or bad Jamal from one night to the next. So I'm not sure that injury necessarily matters. He hit a big 3 for them, on one leg anyway tonight.
Yeah, that was a funny thing. Was that 3 was a clapback after McCollum, I want to say, hit a 3 where they badly needed it, but otherwise, every time he was going up for a shot, he was short. I mean, it was pretty apparent that he just didn't have any lift on a shot, and he's a high jump shooter. There's some guards that are a little bit of a set shooter, but he's like a full extension jumping shooter. So that's really going to screw him up. And maybe it's funny, actually, we have a question here. I can't say the name of the person, but they're asking what's the best Craig/Barden minutes division, or they actually asked Minuet's division, but I'm going to divide their minutes instead. And Barden, they probably are going to have to rely upon more in game 3 because I'm assuming Jamal's not going to be moving very well. And they're going to need to have Barden probably run a lot more point and keep Jamal as more of an off-ball shooter.
Okay, good point. Now, Barden, I want to check Barden's numbers because he didn't look that great to me tonight.
He went 1 for 6, but he was crashing the boards like crazy. I mean, I think that was the one major rebounding anomaly that really, I guess Millsap also, but like that stuck out to me that he was phenomenal attacking the glass. And I think that helped them kind of like catalyze some of their run there.
For sure. Well, let's go to YouTube. We have a nice not ribald might not be the right word, but certainly a vociferous chat group going on in there. And let's see if we know that the caption might be off. Forgive me. I went live before I could change it, and I did change it, but it doesn't seem to want to update. So it's going to have an old caption. But here we are. This is the post game for Nuggets Blazers. Let's see here. Is there a good question here? Well, let's go to Piggy Knight, who's asking us. He'll get us off of the subject for a second. Who will you guys pick for the East? Mine is the Celtics.
Well, it's not the Celtics. So I still got Toronto as my team after everything that's happened in the game 2s. I think they're the most well-designed team for the playoffs. They've, I think, clearly exhibited their capability. I mean, Siakam went 9 for 25, and they still came pretty close to winning that game where Philly was playing really well. So, they have the guy that is the most reliable closer in the conference, which definitely means a lot. And I love the way that their system has been designed offensively and defensively, and the way that Gasol's really coming into his own. And Siakam, he's like consistently progressed from like borderline all-star to borderline all NBA player, I think, over the course
Wow.
of the season. And the level that he's playing at right now, considering how unbelievable his defense is. I mean, I think his defense has been, almost defensive player of the year level in the last couple months. So he's turned into this like additional all-star that they didn't really have as like their reputation a couple months ago.
I did a video that covered the adjustments that worked for the Sixers, and I showed when the starting fives met, played against each other, and it didn't really work. The Raptors really scored really efficiently. Now there are other times, I'm sure, when maybe Siakam shot the ball against Embiid when it wasn't those 5 on the 5. But when we had about, I don't know, let's see, about 15 minutes worth of that. And that's probably more than double any other time that the floor that they had those matchups. So I'm not so sure that Philly, they might have a little bit a false sense of security on this one. And certainly the way that the Raptors came back indicated to me, having played as poorly as they did and shot as poorly as they did, that it's probably a matter of time until they get control of that series again and take it. And I don't think that anyone else is playing as well as they are anyway. They just seem to have enough of everything to get them through, unless on the other bracket we see, either the Celtics or the Celtics or the I'm blanking.
Milwaukee Bucks.
The Milwaukee Bucks. Thank you. Sorry. I was up till 2:30 in the morning and up at 6 a.m. this morning. The Milwaukee Bucks, none of whom are really grabbing me. Certainly not the Bucks. I don't think the Bucks are going to make it out of there against the Celtics. I think you agree with me on that one, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think the Bucks I had Bucks in 7. I think I'll still stick with that.
Okay. Bucks in 7. Really? Okay. Wow. All right. Well, let's move over to let's see if we can find a good comment. Oh, now the comments are working. Great. Over on the
wait. Michael Fraser wants to know, Nick, why don't you sleep?
Why don't I sleep? Are you kidding? I had to do a collaboration with the Heat Check. Have you ever watched that show on YouTube? You ever seen it? Stefan? No. He's a guy he's from Europe, and he's like similar to me, but a little bit less X's and O's. So we did a great one today where I did half and he did half. Like I focused on one team, he focused on the other, and then on his channel I did one for him, half, and he did half. So I was up, all night trying to get that done. That's why I don't sleep. It's certainly the last 2 weeks has been pretty rough. We have one from Zelna Vakov. As a Blazer fan, Evan Turner is the worst for the money we are paying him. Evan Turner is the buzzkill, and luckily, here's the thing. They've been able
He's my guy. It's just so painful.
He is. I'm sorry, but here's the thing. I want to give him some props. He's embraced the role they gave him, and here's the role. You're going to play 12 minutes. You're not going to shoot. That's his role. And you know what? He's doing pretty well. He did have one 18, 19 footer that hit off the backboard. I was like, that was brutal. So, but he's a frustrating player for me, and he's been that way the whole time. I think probably because of the way he shoots. And I hate to say, because there's probably other guys who don't shoot well that I still can enjoy. But he used to dominate the ball way too much. It just sort of brought all the movement and all the fun spacing down. And he's kind of stopped that, which is good. But there's a cloud that comes in when he comes in for Portland, and they got to mitigate that and get the best out they can out of him. Which is one way they do this, by just giving him 14 minutes and that's it.
Here's where ET presents value at this point, because his shot almost looked like he was going to come together and it just didn't. And actually tonight he had a really bad one. I know he's going to regret that one. I think it's that one, he plays with pretty good composure. Usually he tends not to make big mistakes, which is an issue for these guys because CJ and Dame can kind of go over the top and get a little out of control. And those are the only two guys, I guess Rodney Hood, you can add to that now. Those are the only guys on the roster that can really handle the ball and try to play make. And, Rodney Hood is a better fit than Evan Turner, but I think they complement each other in that Hood isn't a playmaker, but he at least can create for himself and score, while Turner is a smart passer. He can reset a play and continue dribble, kind of a lot of the stuff that guys like Aminu, Harkless, Lehman, Collins, or other kind of guys that play in the front court can't really do. So there is definitely some use in what Turner brings to the table, especially in that he can grab a rebound and really push in transition. He did that a couple times, so he can at least keep the pace up for for the offense, but they need to have one of McCollum or Lillard out there with him to ensure that they have enough shooters on the floor.
And and Stotts did it again tonight. There was a stretch there in the second quarter, I want to say, where he had both of them out. And it actually, let me change that. I got to look at that when I do the breakdown. They actually kind of increased the lead when they had both of those guys out for a few minutes. So he could play with fire, I guess, and sort of see how it goes. But to make that comment about Evan Turner or whatever, I think that where they went wrong was getting rid of Alan Crabb. And I can't remember exactly how that happened. I think he left and signed with the Nets.
They traded him.
They traded him? Okay. So who did they trade him for?
I don't know if they even kept any assets out of that deal. I think it was a salary dump. What do you call it? He signed that massive offer sheet with Brooklyn, and they balked, and they kept him even after they made the promise of Turner. They really screwed themselves over by not backing out on the Turner agreement and keeping both of them. Then they had to dump him at that point and tag some picks onto it. Yeah,
that was the problem. They Alan Crabb to me was the perfect fit with what they had there, and really, he's doing well when he's healthy. The Nets, but like that's the guy who really like they had a three guard thing going on that really worked well for Portland. That was a frustrating thing, and then they brought Evan Turner in. That completely changed the dynamic because he doesn't shoot as well. So. Anyhow, I'm looking through these the things. So, do you have any good questions here over on what's it not called? Not Instagram, on Periscope.
There's someone in YouTube named MBW Doughboy. Just want to shout out that name. It's pretty great.
Oh, nice. Now, Westbrook's MCL, which is always another great name, asks.
That's a great one.
What's the best Craig Barden minutes division? Which is really good. I think my quick answer to that would be something like you kind of just got to see how each one is playing and ride the hot hand that night. I feel like, does that work for you?
Yeah, I mean, I said before that I think, especially at least in Game 3 with Murray probably going to be hobbled, that Barden should get more run. I'm just looking at the 9-man rotation, trying to figure out where you take minutes away. I guess you could just not play Plumlee. They don't really need Plumlee in this series because with Collins, I feel like you could just put Craig on him Craig might not be on the floor at the same time because of the rotations.
But Plumlee did give them some good minutes. I mean, he only played 12 minutes, but you know what? He was a -8. Interesting. But he had how many blocks? He had 2 blocks, grabbed some boards. I thought he was relatively effective. But yeah, like when you say you don't play Plumlee, you play him like the 10 minutes, 11 minutes. That's probably what that's the max he's going to get.
Yeah, I think they'll just probably chip away a couple minutes from Murray and give them the Barton. And then it depends whether Beasley's hot. I mean, Beasley was really playing his ass off tonight, so that's why he got a lot of minutes. But Plumlee, I like them having Plumlee out there for 5 to, or I mean, like 2 5-minute rotations or so, I guess, based on 12 6-minute rotations.
Yeah. And by the way, if you're out there on Periscope, a fun game we love to play is everybody hit the share button at the same time on Twitter and let everyone else know that follows you that we're out here having a nice conversation, and we'll answer some more questions. So Quintessential asks, why is everyone so confident they'll beat Philly? This is the Raptors. Well,
I'm not confident. I think they will, but I'm not like super confident.
Okay. He's a Raptors fan. He's not confident after game 2. I am. I'm going to give you the confidence. I just feel like they have what they need. I think it's the Simmons Embiid thing that's troubling to me overall. And I do feel like the Raptors won't shoot that poorly again on open shots that they got. So I don't know. And it's just maybe just a feeling, of doing this long enough where you kind of just sort of feel it, but I could be wrong. But the Philly fans hate me. They feel like I've been hating on their team all season long, which might be true, even though I've done these epic videos praising Ben Simmons and saying how awesome he is before. But the way they use him now it irks me. So that's probably what's influencing me most of the time for the what's going on with Philly. And then the fact that they have Redick, who it's a gauntlet to have to have him get attacked on defense every time and then hope he gets hot and gets the shots he needs, which is not easy in that offense, and that's the problem. Let's see here. Yeah.
And they don't have offensive depth to put somebody in instead of him.
Right. Okay. By the way, here's a good question from Alex G. Oh, first of all, let's give a shout out to Gigolo Puff, who is always out there on YouTube to moderate the comments. Like no matter what time, I don't even tell him ahead of time. He's just there, and he's ready, and he's always moderating and getting rid of the bad comments. So thank you so much for that, and just the most reliable part of my life, really. So Alex G.
Let's just take a moment to commend Jigglypuff, one of the greatest names I've ever seen.
Yeah, Jigglypuff. So we can't even go Gigalopuff, but Jigglypuff. Either way, wherever you are, and I think you're probably like he might be like in France or something for all we know. Alex G, what defense do you throw at Jokic? Do you double team and force role players to hit their threes? That's a great question. What do you think, Jared?
Was it do you double team Jokic on the roll? Is that what they're asking?
No, double team like down low in the post, or and then force the role players to hit their threes.
No, because he passes out of it easily. He shoots over it pretty easily too.
Yeah.
I think the one time that you double him is if you slide. I think if you rotate baseline so you rotate over that second defender baseline and try to push him up against the baseline to really force him into like kind of falling back over, and then his only easy outlet pass is a strong side elbow, but you have your defender right there, and that makes, I think, recovering out of that double really easy. So I would sneak that over. Of course, your risk is that they're gonna the Nuggets will send like Millsap or whomever down into the dunker spot underneath the rim, and he could try to pass over that double. But if you're doubling aggressively enough, he's going to be basically falling backwards and trying to retreat and shouldn't be able to have that passing lane. But he showed tonight he can pass over, through. I forget, was he getting doubled when he threw that bounce pass through the defender's legs tonight?
No, I think it was a weird. Did he get something? Got weird. The defense got out of position, like on a deflection, maybe. But yeah, I mean, but that was an amazing. I missed it. I didn't realize he did it through the legs when he first did it, and I was like trying to get out, film that. Now, yeah, I agree. I think what you need to do is let him score 50 points if he wants. Let him score 50 points. Shut everybody else down. He won't score 50 points. He's not that kind of mindset of a player. And he's so earthbound that, I would take my chances with Kanter guarding him one-on-one. I really would. He might get a bunch of those putbacks. He misses, they put him back, whatever. That's fine. Let it get messy down there. But, I feel like once you start doubling, you're in trouble. They have too many good shooters. They have too many guys who can slash. It seems to me that they're at their best when he's triple doubling and he's getting 20 different assist passes. What are those called? Assist possibilities. That's not the right word.
Yeah, but
assist opportunities or something. Yes,
he just had 43 points a couple games ago. He can do that. I don't.
Did he have 4? Yeah, did he have that many? And what did they win that game?
Yeah, that was a closeout game, right? Or was it
game 7? Did he? Oh, he had 30 something. I don't think he had 40, right? But he had, yeah. So okay, I still think you take your chances with that. I think that's their best chance. Now granted, you can mix it up, and they did. You saw them double team, at times tonight. So mixing up is not a bad idea as long as the rotations are right and you're coming from the right area, not one pass away. Then you can do it a little bit. But I would still prefer to see. I get nervous if I were the other team when he starts to see over like what you said, see over the defense, make those passes. I mean, he really is the best passer in the league right now, I think. By the way, someone had mentioned earlier in the YouTube thing how nice it was that that LeBron is not in the playoffs this year. And I wonder, do you agree with that?
I tweeted about that earlier. By the way, thank you, Martin Chasel. He had the 43 was game 6. They lost that game. I forgot it went to game 7, then they won. But so I mentioned that earlier. I wouldn't call it nice that LeBron's not in it, but I just thought it was kind of strange that it's like I don't miss LeBron's presence at all, or you don't feel LeBron's presence being like a vacuum or a void at all in this offseason or postseason. I think it's probably because Giannis and Kawhi have just been so dominant that they're kind of filling a lot of that role of what LeBron usually does.
Okay.
Especially because Giannis is such a similar player now to LeBron anyway. Obviously, there's some limitations, but like the way that they're running their team, the way their teams are designed around them, it really does kind of feel similar to LeBron. So, yeah, all these teams have a really fascinating star on them that it doesn't. It's like it doesn't really matter.
Okay, let's get some beef out of the way because we were talking about this before we went live. The referees I thought were terrible tonight, and I wrote it down some of the plays, and it was all against Portland for the most part. They finally got one that was terrible. That was Jokic's 5th foul, where I don't know. It was some weird statement foul that you would have made in the first quarter for this first foul, not his 5th in the fourth quarter, but. Lillard has a drive. They had a nice replay of it where he goes up and he yelled. And a lot of times players will yell all the time looking for a foul. But like he got bumped on one side, he got hammered on the hand, on the arm on the other by Jokic. Jake Layman took a charge in the middle of the court, and they called it a block. Like at the very least, you know, it was an and one for Millsap. Okay, like maybe it's a no call, but it's not it cannot be a block. What they called there was crazy. And then Lillard gets elbowed in the face, and they call a foul on him, and the referee was like angry at him calling it. And am I missing anything? Did you see any other ones? I know there's got to be other ones too that were just head scratching.
There was one where they reviewed it where I thought it was silly that they had to review it, but that's not a big deal.
Yeah.
Jokic got 5 fouls and then committed 2 fouls on the next 2 plays, and they didn't call it, which is great. I mean, I'm glad, obviously, but like, you know, he fouled Kanter on the next play, and then he said a moving screen where he threw 2 elbows like out in front of him, and then just like walked into the guy.
Yeah.
So yeah.
There was another one under the basket, like later on in my mind's eye, I can see where he was like gave a guy a really nice push too to get the rebound or go for the rebound, which, you know, that kind of stuff happens too. But you know, they just struggled. They did not have a good control of the game, and that's frustrating. So now in the YouTube comments we have these really bright orange comments. I don't remember exactly why they appear that way, but I think they're important. So let's make sure we touch upon them. NBW Doughboy asks, KD the best player in the world right now? Is KD the best player in the world right now?
Absolutely.
Okay.
I don't think it's that close right now.
Yeah. Because who else would challenge him? I guess either Kawhi
and Giannis.
Curry is hurt and kind of like, you know, not himself.
Yeah, and like, I mean, while Curry could still obviously do amazing stuff on offense, it's just that his defensive impact.
That's true.
Like KD right now is defending at an all NBA level. It's incredible what he's doing defensively. I mean, I guess technically Draymond is at the 5, but you know, like he can do everything defensively, and he's doing everything offensively, and his scoring has just been off the charts, and he's playmaking really well. So I think it's pretty apparent that he's number 1, and then, you know, Kawhi and Giannis are probably like right there below him.
For sure. Okay. Yeah, there's a good question. The only Nets fan on Periscope asks, what is Kanter's offseason deal looking like? He has played himself into more than like an MLE. That's actually a good question. I mean, MLE certainly would have been what I would have thought before the playoffs started, but you know what? His defense, it hasn't been, you know, nobody seems to figure out how to make him look as bad as we thought he was going to be, and he can score down there with his right hand only. What do you think?
I think that Portland is showing that he can be used in the playoffs, for one, and that you can build your defensive scheme so that he doesn't completely screw you over. Because I think most teams are just afraid to have Kanter getting paid more than biannual, essentially, because they are thinking, if we're a contending team, we just can't use this guy in the playoffs that much, or he's going to play 10 minutes. But I think he's showing that he could be he should be a backup 5 most of the time, or matchup dependent 5. But his defense, while it's been bad, I don't think it's been like horrible. He hasn't been this like complete sieve, but he is a team that teams can target. But you know what? He's got one of the hardest matchups that he could have in Jokic, and I think he's doing an okay job. Mm-hmm. I think he's doing a below league average job on Jokic, which is pretty freaking valuable. And considering that he can get you like 15 and 9 most nights, you know, he's probably I think he's worth right around the mid-level, maybe a little bit less than that, but I'd be okay giving the mid-level.
And that's the thing, you know, his defense is just okay enough that if he gives you the 15 points, then it's balanced. It's good. Like, you're okay there. And as we saw tonight when they won. So that is key, because remember, sometimes it's not really all about just the defensive evaluation of a player. If you're going to get a whole lot of offense on the other side, then there's what you can play with that. There's some leeway here. Whereas I feel like coaches in the past have simply felt like they want to shut other teams out. Like they just sort of they coach every defensive possession as if they're going to try and shut the team out. Just doesn't work that way. It's never happened yet. It probably won't ever happen going forward. So you have to be able to understand what you get out of each player and how to maximize that, and not just shoot yourself, you know, or cut your nose off to spite your face. Let's go to a couple more questions. There are some really good ones here on the YouTube side, which is a little bit rare for me, but we haven't done a YouTube live show in a while.
The YouTube chat is pretty remarkable, actually.
Yeah, it used to be. Listen, it was a cesspool. But anyway, and even with Gigolo Puff out there, but let's see here. Derek Rose asks, "What team from the East do you feel is best to knock off Golden State?" So the question is not necessarily who's going to get out, but who would be best to beat Golden State. What do you think?
Wow, that's really hard.
I mean, I would say it was probably going to be Milwaukee, right? Defensively? lengthwise?
I don't know, because I feel like Milwaukee's pick and roll scheme would be a disaster against.
Oh yeah, they give a lot of threes, don't they?
Yeah,
Yeah.
because they're trying to give up threes over the top. Their drop scheme can work well against like Kyrie Irving, because Kyrie likes to get some deep dribble penetration, but the Golden State, they're all about just getting over the screen level and then shooting that ball as fast as they can. So
Right. All right. So
Milwaukee
the
has
Raptors.
switching D. So I'd probably say the Raptors. I mean, the Celtics are probably the best design for it, but their execution and their just ability to show up is too inconsistent. I mean, Boston, I think talent wise still is the team
Right.
to beat
With
Golden
Marcus
State.
Smart.
With Marcus Smart, sure, but
Yeah.
it's just right now. I mean, you know what? Marcus Smart's probably going to come back for Game 5 against Milwaukee, and maybe
Oh.
it's a repeat of next year. And I'm not reporting that, so don't aggregate me. I'm saying like the timeline lines up to him. Probably.
All right. You have to say that before you say that, otherwise it's aggregated, so it's too
Don't
late.
aggregate me. So
Right.
I'm not Ethan Strauss. I don't have to do it right before I say it.
All right. Well, anyhow,
But-
Joseph. Yes, Joseph Joljisi asks, "What adjustments can the Rockets make, or are they just screwed?" Which is a nice way of putting it. I don't think that this just isn't working. The Rockets don't have what they need to beat the Warriors, right? Does that feel the same way to you?
Yeah, well, nobody does, but they probably should cut back on Clint. He's just not working right now. Maybe reintroduce him as a key cog later in the series, but
Just keep going smaller and smaller.
I would just keep going smaller and smaller. I would have even like have Capello sit on his ass just so that he's smaller. I mean, I don't know what they can do with that, but like Tucker should be the 5. I think they need to change the way that they utilize Chris Paul. I think Chris Paul should be coming off of screens and taking shots like that. Like they shouldn't be solely relying on the ISO system, because frankly, teams are figuring out how to defend Harden better in the playoffs this year than they were last year, because it's not quite as novel. And D'Antoni hasn't really adjusted the system enough for there to be kind of like this new wrinkle. I mean, the way that teams are top blocking or literally getting behind him and all that kind of stuff has been interesting. And I do like Golden State just trying to fuck with him and just like having him like kind of like take weird floaters at the free throw line and stuff like that. Like keep doing that kind of stuff. But like Houston needs to run sets for other players, because Harden looks a little bit burnt out by all this stuff. And obviously last game with the eye stuff, it's like that clearly wasn't going to be a good night for Harden. So it's unfair to really judge him based on what just happened. But they have to assume that it's going to be a slog for him the rest of the series, and they need to find ways to create for not Bledsoe, Gordon and Paul in ways in which they're not trying to break people down off the dribble. Like just run a freaking ball screen.
I agree. I feel like it's been startling to me how marginalized. No worries. How marginalized CP3 has been. He just doesn't seem to have a real profound effect on the game like he did certainly last year, where it was a 1-2 punch. And even though he was doing ISOs, and we're seeing it, so I can picture in my mind's eye, yeah, he's doing that, but. A little bit, but it doesn't have the same effect as in the game as it did last year. Whereas when he went down in Game 5, like it was like that totally deflated the Rockets. Whereas the first few games, it really was a problem for the Warriors. So something's just fundamentally changed. They changed the lineups are different because of the personnel, and they just can't seem to recapture what they had last year. It's too bad, because this is going to be over. I mean, how many games do you think it's going to be for the Rockets and the Warriors now? 5?
It feels like it right now, but I still have enough faith in the Rockets to turn it around, and they are going home, which will help.
That's true. I do say, though, that the defense that the Warriors are displaying in spurts is so overwhelming. And we've seen it in the first round and now this round too. Not all the time, but like when they turn that on, it's like they can't do anything. The teams are not going to be able to get a bucket, and that's what they can hang their hat on. And then the 20-footer pull up Kevin Durant over Jesus or anybody else who might try and guard him. It doesn't matter. He just scores it. So
and that's just Muhammad Adam too.
Yeah, there you go. Anyway,
quick question. Jared Weiss entering the YouTube chat here.
Nice.
Is Draymond Green still the best defender in the NBA? And is what if he continues to defend the way he's defending in the playoffs? I know we've had this debate, but does that cement him as your best defender of all time, or best defender since the merger?
Yeah, I mean, again, that discussion is tough because the guys who you would put in that list from the past didn't get to do what he does on the perimeter, rotate and switch and all those different things. They could have done it, I'm sure, but we just don't have any evidence to look at it. So that's the problem, and that's maybe his benefit. But yeah, the things that he does are all so next level, and the way he quarterbacks the defense overall is nobody does what he does. Nobody knows how to be able. Like you watch when Curry or anybody else gets stuck on a mismatch, they're off of that mismatch within 2 seconds, and it's because he's right there and pushing and calling and directing, or he was rotating over to stop the pass, get the rebound, get a deflection. Nobody does what he does like that in that level. I don't even know if you can teach that. Like I kind of want to sit down with him and talk to him about it because I feel like it might just be a his innate natural mindset that he's just born with. But now so does it cement him all time? I know he's moving there. I feel like it's going to be at some point when his career is over. So yeah, why not just claim it now?
Yeah, and I mean, I think you have to say post merger just because like you can't compare him to Bill Russell. Like there's just no, I don't think there's like enough logical way to compare him to like what Bill was doing. It was just there's too much of a difference. And I think Bill Russell would probably, if he was playing today, let's pretend he's 20 instead of his current age, would probably do everything that Draymond did. I mean, I've watched a lot of tape of Bill over the years. The way he moved was very similar. His instincts are very similar. He was it seemed like he had like a 40-inch vertical. I mean, based on some of the clips we've seen of him. But so I assume they would be pretty comparable. And I wonder if Ben Wallace played today, whether he would be similar to Draymond. I feel like he's someone that had the foot, like the feet and the build to be able to do what Draymond did. So he'd be similar, but
Akeem Olajuwon would be able to do something like that too.
Yeah, that's true. But Draymond, he's always in this like state of playing zone where he might have his man that he's guarding, but like he's also kind of loosely double teaming some other player on the floor as well, and there's just nobody quite like it. Kawhi Leonard is the other guy that has been dominant for half a decade as a defender, and he is both the greatest smotherer on the ball, and he's able to help and do amazing stuff, but he just doesn't quite, and maybe because it's just not his responsibility and role in the defense, but there's just this way that Draymond is just quarterbacking everything in real time, and he's putting himself into different positions, and he guards like 4 different types of plays throughout the possession. And if you just keep your eye on him, you'll see that he's shutting down one action over here and another one over here, and he's just doing all this stuff all over the place that just isn't quite what Kawhi or really anyone else is doing. And Giannis might be getting towards that. I think Giannis's roaming is maybe comparable to what Draymond can do, but he just doesn't. He's not seeing it. He's not processing it at that level. There's someone else I wanted to bring up, but whatever. The point is Draymond is very good. I like Draymond. It's a basketball player.
And by the way, ironically for him, like we described Kanter, if he gets the 15 points, then his defense gets mitigated. Well, it's the reverse. Because even if he misses those threes or he's not a threat on the offense, what he does on the defense balances that out and then some. So in a weird way, like he's the opposite of like what you would normally evaluate for a player. And again, it's just really impressive. We had another question by NBW Doughboy. How do you guys think Steph can fix his defensive issues? I don't think he can. He doesn't look as good as he has in the past. Like 2 or 3 years ago, he really was better. But I think he's not moving great. I know he sprained his ankle pretty severely in a couple games ago. That's probably going to limit his mobility. And anyway, he now has a finger issue, which is going to probably got swollen and probably all black and blue and really hurts now. Maybe they give him a splint. So that's going to probably limit his willingness to reach in like he does really well. So they just got to hopefully he can kind of keep a position, not get into any further damage with his body, and just get a hand up.
Well, Steph did a really good job on a couple possessions where he was on Harden, so I thought that was impressive. Yeah. I think the big thing is he's not gliding over screens the way he usually does, and I think that's the thing that he does really well at his position. That's always made him a plus defender. So yeah, I think that's probably the one area that I've noticed doesn't look the same. And I think he's taking possessions off a little bit more than he used to, just because he's getting older, and he's had some lower body injuries, and I think that's how it goes when you get to your 30s. You're just going to start taking a couple plays off, and I don't think it's the end of the world as long as you're locked in for the last couple minutes. For sure. Well, Brady 80 is a Philly fan and doesn't hate me, so thank you, Brady, for not hating me and what I've been talking about for the Sixers. And let's see here. Any good questions as I'm going through? You see anything you want to grab out of there? Bron over Jordan. ironically asks, "Are the Warriors bad for the league?"
Oh, I suppose if they win again, then it's really easy. Does that like leave a bad taste in everyone's mouth? What do you
It
think?
does. It does up until July 1st when KD signs with the Knicks, and then at that point, it just goes back to, you
Game
know,
on.
let's say that team stays together, then I think the league will be at this perfect equilibrium where you have, I mean, assuming everybody pretty much stays together, you've got 4 teams in the East that probably can compete pretty well with that Warriors team. Denver. Oh, I don't want to say anything about Denver right now after that
Okay.
game, so who knows? But like, Houston maybe will still be really competitive with them. So the parity at the top of the league should be pretty exciting if KD does manage to leave. And I think that's probably the one reason why NBA fans should want KD to leave, is that they should hope that the Warriors stay together. We still have the beautiful team that is the Warriors, but there's more evenness and open competition.
Yeah.
But I think right now, I mean, we'll see what happens, but the Warriors look somewhat vulnerable. And I think that the finals should be interesting because I really like these Eastern Conference teams. I think all 4 of them, when they're on, they're good enough to beat the Warriors, but it's just the
Yeah.
Warriors, even when the Warriors are off, they're still good enough to beat themselves, the Warriors, in an existential sense. Like, they're still, KD will pull something out, Steph, Clay. It's like there's always going to be someone who's going to be scoring at an elite level.
For sure. Let's run down. We have a couple of really good questions I want to get to before we start to wrap this up because we're getting a little bit long in the tooth. But again, I can't praise the YouTube comments enough. This is great. Let's see here. Dylan Wayne asks, how do you keep the Nuggets off the glass? More Leonard. That's a great question because obviously it's not enough to have to go small when you go. I mean, I would think that Zach Collins could get in there and you have Cantor, but they might have to play with, getting Myers Leonard in there. But Myers Leonard to me doesn't even feel like a real defensive rebounding presence anyway.
Yeah, I think the best move for them is to have Layman, Collins, and Cantor out there. And I'm not including Harkless because Harkless seemed like he was hurt there. So
Yeah, right.
but I think having Layman at the 3 would help a lot because he's a really good rebounder for that position.
Yeah, he's a good jumper. And
I think that I think him at the 3 probably impacts the rebounding more than anything. But also, I guess to be fair, Aminu is at the 3 a lot, and Aminu is a good rebounder.
You gotta give him a kick in the ass sometimes. I think that's what Stotts is gonna need to do is go through that film and be like, Chief, get in there more.
He led the team in rebounding tonight.
Did he really?
Yeah, he had 10 rebounds. Yeah.
He felt like the one guy. I'm looking around like, where is he? Why is he not out? Now I like if I reload this and go, I wonder how that broke out first half versus second half because now we can do that. So all right, Aminu had 11. Oh, sorry, he had 10 rebounds in the second half. Aminu had 6. Okay, so he had more than his half in the second half. All right, I guess my mind's eye is not functioning properly because it felt like he just wasn't as impactful. But you know what? That's a lot of rebounds, so good for him. They need more, just even more of that, I would imagine, especially with Harkless out. Now, how about this? Astrid DeCheco asks, with the reliance of the 3, why don't teams drive towards the basket when their shots don't fall? That's a great question. I mean, obviously, the answer would probably be that, the variance or the odds are that eventually it will go in. So we want to continue to shoot those to get back to the odds of whatever the percentages are going to be. Does that make sense to you with the math?
Yeah.
I know. Yeah.
I don't necessarily agree with that premise. I think that teams do try to attack the rim plenty when their shots aren't falling. And teams will probably attack the rim more when their shots aren't falling, in that they will up fake and then attack a closeout because they're less confident in themselves to shoot into a closeout.
Although, it's a good point because tonight Denver missed 8 or 9 straight in the second quarter to fell behind by 15. The crowd was booing. So there was an example of and it wasn't 8 or 9 in a row on 8 or 9 possessions in a row, I don't think, but it was probably like 11 possessions they missed 8 in a row. And I know when I grew up playing, it was like a coach would say, no more threes. Like literally a blanket rule across the board if one guy or 2 guys miss a couple, right? That seems kind of crazy too. So I think it's the kind of threes that you need to be able to be more aware of. The contested threes you got to stop taking, right?
Yeah.
The dribble into pulling up with a guy in your face, those kind. It's if you drive to the basket and kick, okay, now to the corner. Now that's a great three no matter when you take it, no matter what happened before that. So I think that's the thing we have to learn and continue to evolve is players just need to get better at shot selection. Coaches need to get better at developing their offenses so it's constantly creating those good shots. Like it's almost impossible not to get a good shot, and then you'll start to see maybe finally one day we'll see the league average 3-point percentage creep up significantly over time versus what we haven't seen since the advent of the 3-pointer.
Sure. And by the way, Robbie Edwa over in the Periscope was saying that Aminu hasn't played the 3 in 2 years because we were talking about the rebounding thing.
Oh,
so
right.
I'm saying in the idea that they would put Collins and Kanter out there together to try to fortify rebounding. I guess Aminu would be the 3. But it does beg the question, would you, because I think this is probably a real issue and solution we have to figure out for the series, would you put, assuming it's going to be Jokic and Millsap out there together, would you be willing to put Kanter and Collins out there at the same time and then have Aminu or Layman or I guess Harkless at the 3 next to Dame and CJ?
Okay. We'll have to wait and see. Now, there's a good question here, and I'm interested because I can't see it on my in my browser, but I do see my phone. And let's throw the Lakers a bone as we wrap this up. What do you say?
Oh, God, why not?
Robbie Rob asks this. Is there any chance the Lakers make the 8th seed next year?
Hell if I know. I mean, yeah, I guess so. They
would have easily made it if LeBron doesn't get hurt.
Yeah, they would have made it if LeBron didn't get hurt. The season went as poorly as humanly possible. The AD situation should be resolved by June or July. So
what's that going to be? What's the resolution?
Well, Dave Griffin is mounting a very impressive PR campaign to try to keep him there. I don't think it's going to happen. I mean, as much as I would buy Griff selling me on improved institutional, comprehensiveness and comprehension, and just like New Orleans being a well-run franchise again, there's nothing they can really do from a personnel perspective to change anything. And if I'm AD, I want to get the hell out of there because that team is just not that good. And he's wasted so much time.
It's just time.
So much time in his career. It's like he's got to do it. He's hitting his prime now. Health is not certain with him. He's got to attack it now while he's a truly elite player because he has to start building up to being a true champion. Maybe he goes to a really good team like Boston or New York loading up with a bunch of guys, or maybe one of the LA teams or even Golden State or whatever. But like, unless it's Golden State, obviously, I'm pretty sure there's going to be some growing pains to being an actual champion. He's got to start going through that now so that when he hits his prime at 27, he's kind of like fortified as that champion player.
So you don't think he's in his prime yet, huh?
I mean, he's 25. Usually prime starts at 27. He seems like he's in his prime, but there's still a lot of areas that he can improve. So no, I don't. I think he's entering his prime. He's on the precipice of it. But yeah, he's going to get really goddamn good.
Okay. Really. Well, good to know. Good to know. Well, everyone in the chat seems to be loving this, and I lament not doing enough of these. And you know what? It's because you and I haven't done it. But I'm glad that we can be here to do this. Let's do it again tomorrow night. What do you say?
Absolutely.
All right, we'll put it on your calendars after tomorrow's game. Jared and I will be right back here again. We'll do it on YouTube. Why not? We'll do it on Periscope and anywhere else. Maybe we'll do it on Facebook Live. What do you say about that?
Whatever Gigolo Puff wants, we'll do.
All right, all right. We got to get Gigolo Puff on all the other platforms. But again, big shout out to Gigolo Puff for all of that. Love you, love everybody. Again, it's just the best questions we've had on the YouTube side in my 9 years of doing this. Which, by the way, it's my anniversary. I think today, May 1st,
happy
2010. It was when I started. Don't ever go watch those videos. Don't watch them because they're really bad. But it's been 9 years. Oh, wow. So thank you for sharing that, Jared. This is a monumental night. I didn't even realize.
This is really funny. Josh Lopez asked, "Where's the bald guy?"
Oh, that would be Dave.
We're going to have to get Dave on one of these.
Yeah, we could throw him in there. We could do a 3-man easily on this thing. So maybe we'll get Dave to join us tomorrow. I'll see if he's around.
We're all the Athletic family now, actually. So it works.
Yeah, then it has to. So don't forget, go over and read everything that Jared writes to the Athletic and subscribe. Also read my stuff. I just dropped a great video on the first round adjustments that teams made that caught my eye, and I'll do the same thing again next week for something. So EuroLeague, head over there. I'm doing some really cool stuff with them, and they're already talking about interviewing Jasikevicius to coach the Memphis Grizzlies, and I did an awesome video on his, and I freaking nailed his name just now. So go watch it. Listen, you want the outtakes of that one, trying to get it right. It was really hilarious. So anyway, all great stuff. Jared, what are you writing right now?
Yeah, I got to do plugs. Also, screw Josh Lopez. Right after I gave them shine, they said, bring Dave back. So, no, I will not bring Dave back. I'm going to shave my head, and you have to listen to me from now on.
And grow that beard more.
But so, yeah. I have a big feature coming out should be on the front page of The Athletic tomorrow about a certain emerging rap superstar, or he's not a superstar yet, but an emerging rap star who is becoming a face of a city and NBA team. And I think is a really fascinating story. Even
Drake is still emerging.
That's the next one I'm going to do. But
all right.
This is a different one, but I don't want to spoil it yet. But I think if you're a big hip hop fan, I think you're going to find this really interesting. And if you're just interested in people in general, I think you'll find it very interesting. It was a piece I really enjoyed doing. Awesome.
Well, great stuff. We'll see you right back here again tomorrow on Periscope and YouTube, and let's do Facebook and everywhere else. And don't forget, sports fans, at BBallBreakdown, we're not a channel, we're a conversation. You in? Are you in, Jared?
I'm right here.